Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 170. I'm your host, Kamron Shushtar, and with me is...
James Yillig.
We are here this week to hit up a lot of, I guess you could say backlog stuff, but also some Edgerunner stuff. We got that new Netflix show, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, that we're going to talk about, and also plenty of other shows and some games and maybe a movie. We're gonna see how it goes. But I've been trying to get through some stuff. But James, how are you doing? How is your week going?
I'm pretty good. I am kind of super proud of myself. For a little while, one of my goals at the gym was like I wanted to see if I could squat 300 pounds. And to be fair, the gym I use at work only has a Smith machine, so it's like different than just like a free weight bar. But for like a while, one of the things that I was like unsure of was like how much those bars weigh, because it's like it's not a free bar and it feels like it's counterweighted, but it doesn't feel like 0 pounds. I finally looked it up and it is like apparently 25 pounds. And I
No, so
looked
it's
that
only
up.
like 20 less than a regular bar.
Yeah, it's not that bad. But it's also like I had just put on like 275 pounds. So I was like, oh shit, I just did 300. Whoa. So I hit a personal goal at the gym. That was pretty cool. And
Nice.
other than that, it's going to be very busy next week because a few people are out on either vacation or just like medical stuff. So
So you're entering super
yeah,
scientist mode.
yeah, it's just like I don't know how busy I'm or how much free time I'm going to have next week, which is annoying because I keep trying to find time to play like scary games. Like I keep wanting to play Resident Evil 7 in VR, and just like after work, I haven't had the energy or time, well, more energy to set up the VR headset and stuff like that. Just because I've heard it can be such a hassle, and
Mm,
it's one of those things where like it's probably not that bad, but just a little bit of inconvenience that it might be is making me like choose other things. So I've been playing a lot of Hades on my computer, and I actually finally I got through Scorn, which just released on Friday, and I've been looking forward to it for a while. It's a perfect Halloween game because it's kind of spooky and weird, and I'm super glad I got through that in just one weekend, so I can move on to other stuff too. Sounds like I
nice.
didn't enjoy it. I did like it. It's just like there are so many things to
There
take up my
is.
time that I'm just like I'm glad I actually finished one thing.
I feel it. Yeah. I'm dude, the weather recently has been killing me because it's like completely overcast here, where
Oh
there's
yeah.
no sun, but there's no rain, and there's not even fog. It's just like a gray
Dude, like
sadness just in the sky.
I had to take the long way home a few times this last week just because like sometimes based on traffic it can actually take me less time to go all the way North Bay route and like down through the um Golden Gate Bridge instead of doing the East Bay route and just like
Mhm.
going over the Bay Bridge. And there were like a couple days where the fog rolling over that hill was so thick that I was just like, holy shit, I can't see more than like 200 feet ahead of me. This is scary as shit.
Damn. Yeah, no, yeah. It's been I only get like a few reprieves when it's like go shopping for groceries and stuff, or go to the gym where it's like out near the mission area, and then I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, sunlight, this is great, and come back here and I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, it's
But
just gray over here.
yeah, it's just hella gray. Uh, Otherwise, dude, I'm like finally blasting through my comics. I've had like my current pull list has
I
been
keep
like
forgetting I got to read that uh
Harley Quinn.
the Harley Quinn thing before we talk about that for
You got time. I haven't had a
yeah.
chance to even look for people yet.
Oh no.
But yeah, dude, there's so much. But I was behind like a month, and I've now closed in on 2 weeks behind, and I'm like so close. I've honestly a lot of today I was just reading. I'm like, I'm just gonna read today. Just no screens as much, and it's been a little bit nice, but I'm also still bulldozing through fucking One Piece, and I'm just like, okay, it's the spooky month where I want to watch spooky shows and play spooky games, and I'm just like, One Piece must get through One Piece, and it's so annoying to find a balance with that. It's crazy, and it's all just, if this movie wasn't coming out in early November, I would not be here doing
Yeah, I
this like
can't believe you're trying to
crazy.
get through the entire show before
Yeah,
that movie comes out. That's insane.
yeah, I know. Otherwise, like I wish I started it sooner. I don't remember why I didn't, but I'm just like, I probably should have just come. Honestly, it's probably my friend's fault because I will say, I originally was doing this with a clanmate that I play Destiny with, and we were just like watching it and like in chat on Discord, and we went so slowly that nothing ever happened and never reached out, and I never wanted to bother them and stuff. So I'm like, oh my god. And then I finally started watching it on my own. I'm like blasting through it now, and I'm like, oh my god, I wish I didn't. Just like, guys, don't watch stuff with other people. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just watch it on your own, and you'll go like 20 times faster because then you don't have to worry about schedules and time zones and bullshit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, this episode we're gonna get through a lot of stuff, and we only have one news piece that we're gonna go through very briefly. And I guess with that said, let's just get right into it, James. If you want to lead us in on the Bayonetta news.
Yeah. So, kind of caveat to this story at first, or first off, because so far as we just have like one side of the story, and it feels like there has to be more to it because it makes no sense. So the voice actress who voices Bayonetta, the protagonist of the Bayonetta games, Helena Taylor, went to Twitter the other day to claim that the reason why she didn't come back to voice Bayonetta in the third game, which I had totally missed that was even a thing, that because I was like super excited for this game because I love the first two, and it's just like it's always annoying when they have to recast a character, let alone the main character. But she claims that to reprise her role, Platinum Games and Nintendo only offered her 4,000 US dollars total for the entire game. And you mentioned before we started recording that is leaves out a lot of details, like how many lines was it actually, how long would it have taken her to actually record that entire like all the lines. But it just like, even still, it feels like that's not a lot of money to pay the lead actress in a sense for like a game, even if it's just a voice acting role and she's not doing any mocap. It's just, that seems nuts to me, especially since she started off her first video saying that like the Bayonetta series, not including merchandise, has already made like $450 million. So it feels like they could probably afford to pay her a little bit more, but I don't know. But I do agree with you that like it feels like there should be way more that to the story that we're just like we don't know yet. So hopefully we hear more. Maybe she can work out a deal with Platinum later on to do like a director's cut of the game or something like that, where they just replace her voice, the
We
voice
got rid of
lines.
Jennifer Hale.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing is like they're also replacing her with Jennifer Hale, which I'm sure she did like an amazing job voicing the game, but they could literally maybe do what they did to Peter Dinklage's lines in Destiny 1, where they just straight up re-recorded everything with Troy Baker, was it?
Nathan Nolan North.
Oh, it was Nolan North. Right.
Yeah. I will just say too, I guess there's a recent thing really fast where in Mob Psycho's, I guess, dubs version, some people are just getting paid $300. So
that's insane.
like for
Yeah.
that, and I feel like in an entire season of voice acting, all those episodes potentially versus a game where most of it's combat, not as much dialogue.
I mean,
Depending on what's going on,
there were a bunch of cutscenes and stuff like that, and
it
like
equals 12 episodes of a show.
no, probably not. But
Yeah,
like going off of the first games, like they're not super short. But they're not crazy long. So I'd still think it has to be at least like hundreds of lines for her to do. But I don't know anything about voice acting. I don't know how long it takes to actually do that much work. But it feels weird, and I would like to know more about the story. And maybe we'll come back to it later if we do hear more. But
yeah, and I guess in a short, really fast, without going into detail, I just want a yes or no. But the whole point of it was she went boycott Bayonetta 3. Are you going to boycott Bayonetta 3? Yes or no? I don't need anything.
I want to say yes for now.
Okay,
but
all right.
We'll see.
Moving on, we were going to go into our feature thing, which is pretty much Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and yeah, it was a show. And I will say before we talk about it, I only watched this show. I still haven't opened my PS4 copy of Cyberpunk 2077, which I will then get the free upgrade for PS5. But
Yeah,
I
I want to
haven't
say I
touched it
played
at all
like
yet.
I want to say I played like 4 or 5 hours on PC. I'm not very far.
Okay. And
I'm
I know
like
because
basically out of the first chapter.
okay. But I guess getting right into it, I watched it with some friends. We were like, I think we spent two different, like we did watched it for like 2 Saturdays, and I think one of them played Cyberpunk, or one or two of them did, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is that blah blah blah," and like they were like saying certain references to the game where they're like, "Oh my god, this is in this," or the fact that now the anime content is also in the game, where they threw in like
Yeah,
David's
that's kind of
mom's
cool.
jacket and whatnot in there. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know what that is, but sure. I don't like. I haven't played the game yet
It's
to
just a
know
cool
these
cosmetic, I
references.
think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the same thing where we watched Arcane, and I haven't touched League of Legends ever, so I don't know shit about that universe. So
Yeah, for me, it's like, oh, I recognize some of these characters.
yeah, I just
That's
knew
about it.
Jinx. That was it. That's all I knew. I was like, yeah, it's the crazy woman, right? That just like flies
Yeah.
around and shit.
I
Um,
don't know if any of the Edgerunners stuff was in the game before the anime though.
I
So
think
like,
only the locations, maybe.
oh,
That's
okay,
what I
that's what
mean.
you mean. No,
Yeah,
that was definitely kind of cool for me. Like, because I have played a
and
little bit
also the
of
gangs and
Cyberpunk.
whatnot.
Yeah, the gangs I recognized like the Maelstrom, I think it was like the dudes who are like super cyborged up.
Hmm.
Um, but there are like certain locations like the Afterlife is like a major place in the game. The one of the bars they go to. And
Okay.
also Moxie's, I think it was. So like it was kind of cool to see some things like that. And also like whenever Lucy was hacking stuff, like that's straight up the hacking mini game in the game. And like the cell phone ring is like literally straight from the game.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
they say
So
choom a lot in the game, I assume?
yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the dialect things, I guess, from for cyberpunk times
It
for
was like
2077.
it felt like a more annoying version than Chicken Legs and Shiv from like Dark Knight Returns, where like, yo, you Shiv, yeah, I Shiv. But it was like choom, and I'm
Oh,
just like,
I
stop saying
always
this, please.
I always took it as like a really weird version of saying like chum, because it's like you say it like, friend or like buddy, but
Yeah.
it's like you could say it either as like yo, hey choom, or like aggressively like yo, what's up choom. I don't know, God, that sounded fucking weird. But
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit,
yeah, no, but like I did appreciate all the little touches that they had of just like making it this anime feel like it's actually in the same exact world as Cyberpunk 2077. It really does make me want to play more of the game, which is
it
interesting.
made everyone like the whole thing was
Yeah, apparently I'm not alone on that.
the the single player, I guess the single player game then outweighed all the multiplayer games in terms of population of people playing it online, or at least I guess like playing it on Steam and whatnot. So like, because Cyberpunk's single player, obviously, and usually when you're looking on Steam, majority of the games that are like having the biggest populations are multiplayer games. And after that anime came out, Cyberpunk like blasted up past all of the multiplayer games in terms of player base concurrently.
It
Uh,
actually, I think one of the things I heard was it had more concurrent players at one point than Witcher 3 ever did. And
which
that
is
game was crazy popular, especially
yeah,
after the Netflix show came out.
that is true, but I guess the difference here is I had already played The Witcher at a certain
Yeah,
point, and I didn't need to do it like after the show necessarily.
same.
But this I think was a little bit different because this is a whole new world, more or less, even though it's based
Yeah,
off of a board game or whatever. Uh,
yeah, that's fair.
Otherwise, the studio that did it was Trigger Animation, and Trigger did a fantastic job with the animation. I think the
Oh
animation was probably
yeah,
the strongest point of this show, where above the story, above everything else, the animation was just insane looking. And it was probably due to the fact that this team has to deal with the cyberpunk universe. The cyberpunk universe has insane colors, the vibrancy of it, just everything is bright for the most part. And it just pops when you watch it. And you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe how good this looks. Or when they're in the weird, like when either they're going into the VR moon world or they're
yeah,
just
dude. There were
chilling.
some parts that were just beautiful. Like
Yeah,
that moon scene was super cool, and oh god, at the very end too, I was like almost crying.
yeah. And otherwise, like Yeah, it just looked good. The show itself, going through it, I think had a very strong start, and it was doing good at a certain point. I want to say around, what was this episode? Like, it was 8 or 10 episodes, the show.
I think it was 10.
10? I want to say around 7 or so, it started losing its momentum, for me at least. And it started kind of like grinding to a halt where you went from like, yeah, this is great to, oh, this is all right. We're
Was it
just going really
after
fast.
Maine died?
Yeah, I want to say it was after
Yeah.
Main died. That's kind of when the show kind of dropped a little bit.
There were definitely like a couple sort of like in between episodes where there was like a time jump and David became kind of like the leader of the
Yeah.
Cyberpunks
Though it
or the
didn't feel
Edge
like
Runners,
it felt
which
like
is
a
weird.
depression jump, if
Oh,
anything.
absolutely.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm not saying like, to make a show sad or something makes it bad, but it didn't feel as exciting. It just felt like, oh, everything feels just kind of whatever.
Uh,
And we got here very quickly compared to like what was going on before, where it was all a lot of buildup. And then after that, they just said buildup's done. Now we're just kind of at the end point very quickly.
that's
Uh,
fair. I thought it was really interesting how it got me really like into all the side characters and stuff.
oh yeah,
So
very
that
much
I
so.
like every time someone died, I actually was just like, oh holy shit, that person's dead.
Yeah,
Like
it was kind of crazy, especially because it was the first one. I forget his
the dude
name.
with the hands, yeah, I forget.
Yeah,
Like he died like just so suddenly when that cyber psycho just like blew his head off. And like when Maine started going cyber psycho, I literally was like, oh fuck, that sucks. Cause I like this guy and he's like losing his mind. And just like the way he sacrifices himself to try to like save David and everything, like the way he's just like you're good at running, kid, so keep running. And he just like you see him slow motion explode. Is like and and then like when Rebecca got crushed by Atom Smasher, I was just like, oh man, she was awesome though.
so Pilar was the dude that lost
You're
his hand.
right.
I was trying to look up the names again.
No,
But
I
yeah,
forgot.
Pilar,
Yeah.
because you don't feel like anyone's gonna die just yet, and then Pilar just does when the dude's kind of losing his mind and
Yeah.
just immediately just gets got, and you're like, oh shit. And what was weirder was Rebecca's like, I was supposed to kill him, and you're like, wait, aren't you guys siblings? What did
Yeah, I
he
couldn't
do
tell what their
so?
relationship was. I guessed brother sister.
Yeah, they were siblings.
Yeah.
But I was very curious as to what he did that she was like, I'm gonna be the one to kill him in the
Oh no,
future.
I think it was just supposed to be like, oh, he's my brother. He's a piece of shit. I hate him.
I
Like,
guess that, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, she lost her cool with it. I mean, I guess the sad moment started when David's mom dies. Like that was fucked
yeah, that
up.
was horrifying. Well, not
Uh,
horrifying, just like so
you
like
knew it was
gut
coming too. That was
wrenching.
the worst part.
Yeah,
You knew it was gonna happen, and when it does, you're just like, fuck. And it doesn't even matter who killed her. It was just kind of like, yeah, this is just the world we live in,
yeah. Like
pretty much.
she wasn't even the target. It was like the dude in the other car, and like I guess the gang members didn't want to wait for a clear shot. They were just like, fuck it, this is the best we're gonna get, so kill him.
Yeah.
Even the people in between.
And
And then
yeah,
like the medics show up and it's just like, oh, they don't have coverage, so we're just gonna leave.
yeah, it's one of those things where I'm excited to play Cyberpunk, and it's one of those worlds where I'm like, it's a world I'd never ever ever want to imagine or live in at the same time. Like I'm sure there's people that are like, oh my god, Cyberpunk, what a fucking cool world. I wish I could be there. And I'm like, bro, why would you ever want to be there? This is like, it's like saying you want to live in the Blade Runner world. Why would you want to fucking live in Shitville
Yeah,
like
I
ever?
mean, the little bit I've spent in Night City, it is a horrifyingly depressing place.
Yeah, it's like it feels like, I mean, cyberpunk worlds really really feel like ultra commercialized worlds where
Oh yeah.
consumerism is the death of humanity.
Well, literally,
And
like the whole like David's mom, like her whole thing she wanted for her son was like to get a corporate job because that's like literally, according to everyone, the only way to succeed without dying in Night City is to get a good corporate job where everyone's trying to backstab each other.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like she was right, more or less, kind of, just the way
Kind of,
everything
yeah.
turns out. But that doesn't turn out its way, and they do the whole crew and everything else. But I guess going through the crew, how'd you feel about? I guess not counting Pilar, because Pilar was very brief. Pilar wasn't really
I don't
there.
know. It was kind of funny that like he got like golden hands at one point. And I love how Rebecca shot them and he's like, awesome, they're bulletproof.
Oh,
And like
David,
he,
my man, what's up? And
and
she
how
like
he
points
like
the gun at them when she
oh
opens the
yeah.
door.
Like and how he would just like do jerk off motions all the time with him. Like
Yeah,
he was a very
he's
crude dude. And it's like so even like the most side of side characters was like an interesting character for me.
oh
But
yeah,
like
very
yeah, we
much so.
didn't get to learn much about him other than he's like really into his hands.
I also find it funny, actually, really fast. The one of David's classmates is like the rich kid, and he has implants where it's like, oh, the rich kid can bully the other kids, not because
Yeah.
he's rich, but because, well, yes, because he's rich, but because he was able to afford fighting skills that could kick
He
someone's
literally
ass.
bought like a kung fu chip and just like beat the shit out of David. And I also love that he did a bunch of like show off moves first and
Yes.
then he beat the shit out of him. And then like later on when David or someone's fighting his dad for real, he's just like got the same implants, but he doesn't fuck around.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's great though. And it just shows, they do a good job of showing like I guess like teen immaturity and whatnot.
Yeah. I do love when David takes the Sandevistian and just like gets it implanted, which every time he gets an implant put in, it looks like horrifyingly painful.
Yeah.
And
Well, no, the whole thing is other people, when they do implants, depending on how their care is or their money, they can afford to do like painkillers or all this other stuff for being
yeah,
knocked out. David can't afford any of that shit, so he has to do it that way,
yeah,
I assume.
it is something like you can get like I assume you can go to like a good hospital or whatever to get implants put in like safely, or you could just go to like a back alley ripper doc and it might work out fine. Uh, and I just love when he gets the Sandevistian put in and he goes to school and he beats the shit out of the bully and he's just like, you broke my nose, what are you doing, like we're on school property. He's like, I don't care, I'm never coming back here.
Yeah, he's like, my mom's dead. I don't care about her. Like
uh,
her dreams for me are dead with her, pretty much, which was kind of fucked up. But yeah,
oh god, when he started hallucinating at the end when he was like going cyber psycho and he's like sees his mom saying like, I want you to go to the top of the Arasaka Tower. He's like, I will, mom. He's like a monster mech thing.
yeah, God.
uh
Uh, the other characters though, like Kiwi was very interesting because at first I'm like, oh, she
yeah,
loves wearing masks. Then you find out
no,
like,
it's
oh,
just
she
like her
doesn't.
face.
Her face is just fucked up because like I don't know if it was just some accident that occurred before, but like everyone's pretty much more or less extremely mechanical
Yeah,
at
no, I
that
think
point.
that's just like a personal choice. Is like some people choose to have their lower jaw removed because then you could just have whatever implanted there. It's really weird. Like there are some people in Night City that go really far with like the body mods for like specific jobs.
Okay, but otherwise, she's honestly, her design is really cool because she looks like how would I put it? A cross between a Mortal Kombat character and some assassin hacker, I guess you
Oh
could
yeah.
say. Like just the vibes her
Well,
outfit
she even has
puts.
like the scarf around her neck most of the time and stuff like that. Not that that's
Yeah.
like specifically a ninja thing, but like kind of Naruto puts that thought into your head.
But she was a cool like hacker type and everything else, and the whole thing in which she is the mentor to
Lucy.
Lucy and stuff, which was interesting. But then her whole betrayal for money and everything else, and then
Yeah,
she
I
gets
did not
fucked
see that
over.
coming.
Yeah, that was sad. But in the end she got to everyone just gets got pretty much
Yeah.
practically.
I did like that, like as she's dying, she calls David and she's like, or she calls like Rebecca. She calls like one of the crew and is just like, hey, I'm dying. I'm sorry I tried to fuck you over. They got me. I got them. So the least I can do is to help you get Lucy back.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I think she called Falco, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Which, speaking of Falco, I loved Falco being like a Western driver, a Western
Yeah,
getaway
I
driver.
wish we got more of him, but he was basically just the driver.
Yeah. And I'm glad he didn't die. I was just like,
Yeah,
oh, thank God. Because he just, the way he talked and everything else, I'm just like, oh, this dude's so cool. I hope he survives. But then the way everything's going, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna suck when Falco dies and he doesn't. And I'm like, oh, dude, Falco got away. Yo, that's crazy. Someone
he's like
actually
one of
didn't get
two
fucked
people
up.
that got away.
Yeah, out of that whole fucking crew, which is insane. Uh, but like I said, Falco was cool. I like the aesthetic of him being like this Western chauffeur who's just a getaway driver, and he's just got a cool accent and whatnot. And then you got pretty much Dorio and Maine, and Dorio was cool.
Oh
He's
yeah,
just
he
like
died pretty
this
soon too. We didn't get much of him.
Dorio.
Yeah.
Dorio's woman. She
Wait, which
was
one was
the
Dorio?
she was the white woman that Maine. I don't think Maine shot her. Someone shot her when Maine was
Oh,
going cyber
I thought that was a
psycho.
dude the whole time.
No.
Weird. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's okay. Yeah, no,
No,
Dory
I guess. Did you watch it in Japanese or English?
English.
Oh, I watched it in Japanese. The voice, I guess, in that's weird. I guess in Japanese it sounded more masculine than I
I mean,
expected.
Luffy's voiced by like a majority of the main anime male characters are voiced by women, so
Eh.
like yeah. But yeah, Dorio's a woman. Dory and Maine were more or less a couple kind of. Um and it was cool because Dory was just like this beast of woman, a woman that just like she had the
Weird.
cool like
Wait,
the
I thought Maine was with Kiwi.
no, I don't think so. You
Oh
didn't
man, I got really confused then.
did you not you watched the show, right?
I did. I watched it in like 2 days.
Yeah, Dorio and Maine were like fucking around a lot. You notice that?
I guess not. Weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Are you
I
saying that
mean,
because Kiwi was like naked on his couch at one point?
yeah. I
You
guess I
know,
just
she does that because she would have to go into
I
the bathtub
know.
to do the hacker shit.
I know. I guess I just assumed that like she was comfortable with him being around because they were a couple, but I don't know. I
No,
guess not.
I don't think any of them care because at that point they're just like fucking metal anyway. Who cares at that point?
Nah, that's fair.
Yeah, but yeah, honestly, Cyberpunk just seems like a fucking orgy town practically. Honestly,
Yeah, there's a lot of just like who gives a shit? Just fuck anyone.
yeah, I'm a fucking
Life,
robot. Who cares?
yeah, life is short. Just do whatever you
Especially
want.
for you, yeah. Just God,
There's
what a
literally
fucked up
like
place.
there's literally a side quest you do like pretty early on in Cyberpunk where you pick up a dude who's just like his implant's dick is like malfunctioning. He's like, "Come here to a river doc, please, stat."
My
And I was
penis,
like,
it's broken, so
"Yeah, no, literally." And I'm just like, "Why would you replace that though? Like, I guess you could get something technically better, but like, really though? I don't know. It's a
yeah.
different world."
It definitely is. So anyway, Dorio and Maine, the point being that yes, they're a couple, and or I think, or they fuck, I don't know. And Dorio is just cool. Like she's got the jacket
Yeah.
that's just a jacket and somehow never goes crazy because like yeah.
They
Uh
seemed like just like the cool, like literally emotionally cool person in the
yes,
room.
she's very much like keeping calm and never really getting emotionally compromised, especially once she notices that Maine is going cyber psycho. She's just like, all right, I gotta see how I can keep this guy under control long enough
Yeah.
for us to finish what we have to do. And, at that point, though, it gets her killed. And then, Maine goes
Yeah.
insane
That was
until he
super sad.
dies. Yeah. It was crazy too, just how like it happens to Maine, and you're just like, oh shit, if this is like cyber dementia,
Yeah, like
if
she
dementia made you fucking go insane and kill people.
it literally seemed to just like make him dissociate where he was in his life. And he kept like hallucinating being in a different place or like fighting someone else when he was like there was someone that he recognized in front of him, like Dorio or Lucy, which is why he not Lucy, Kiwi, which is why he like punched her out and stuff like that. Like it, that was super brutal how Dorio died, just like literally trying to give Maine some of his meds and she just gets shot like right in front of him, and like
Yeah.
that's what makes him go like super psycho.
But Main otherwise before that was really cool. Like he's this guy that's understanding for the most part. He doesn't do charity, but you feel he's somewhat charitable at the same time,
But you
kind
feel
of.
like he cares for his people because he's just like everyone gets an even cut. That's how I roll.
Yeah. Until yeah. He maintains everything until the cyber psycho kicks in.
Mm.
And you see him dealing with Faraday, who is voiced by fucking Giancarlo Luis Esposito, which is crazy.
Oh man, oh maybe I should watch it in
That's
English
why I watched
again.
it in English. I was like, dude, this is very much like if you're playing Cyberpunk in English, you might as well watch it in English too, especially if the voice cast is fine. And the voice cast was good. Like it felt very much what it was supposed to be in English. I can't imagine it sounding right in Japanese.
I thought it was pretty
Nor
good.
I mean compared to everything, like especially just because like they sound like perfectly the way they look. It's
Mhm.
insanely good. Especially David. David actually sounded really good, and having Faraday was great with Esposito voicing him and everything else. But uh otherwise, yeah, Main was cool until he was dead, and then you're like, oh well, shit. Okay, I guess that's
Yeah.
it then. And I did like also that Main was like feeling bad for David mainly because of what happened to his mom, where he's like, oh yeah, your mom used to do all that shit for us. That's how she could afford to do certain things. But it was still like,
Yeah, when he finds out, he's like, "Wait, you're Gloria's kid? Shit. Oh man, that sucks."
yeah. And God, it sucks too that she does all this stuff and it still wasn't enough that she had to do the extra stuff on the side. And that
Yeah.
wasn't even like for any form of greed. It was literally like, I'm just trying to get my son through school.
Yeah. To like a good school
Yeah,
to
which
get
is
him
insane.
ahead.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
And like I
Did
was really
Gloria have
surprised
any
that
implants? It didn't look like
uh
she did really.
she might have had like the chip things that everyone has in their neck, but like other than that, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
think so.
I wonder how people are born in this world. Like what the I mean, it's supposed
Like
it's is it
regular?
supposed to be they're born regular, like this is still
Yeah, as
shit, but then
far as
somehow
I
you
know.
put chips into your like how does that start? That whole like I'm gonna implant chips into your neck and then
Yeah,
from
that I couldn't
there
tell you. I don't know if
that's
they
insane.
talked
Yeah.
about it at any point. There might be
It,
like there's like a lot of like things to read scattered around the environment. Like maybe some of them talk about it, but I couldn't tell you.
okay. And the just real fast in the game, do you ever see anyone that seems completely normal, like fully natural?
Nah, pretty much everyone has like wait, no, actually there are specifically like a side quest thing involving monks that like their whole thing is just like body purity and like having no implants. It's like literally part of their religion.
Okay, interesting. Otherwise, did you have anything else on Main and Dorio?
No.
Okay. The other characters being pretty much I think just really like I don't have anything on Faraday. Faraday was cool, but he was like more of just a background antagonist for the most
Yeah.
part. Uh
Just another corpo trying to make like the most money he can.
yeah. And it really just being the other, I guess, main one being I almost want to save her for last, but she's not the main character, Rebecca, who I would say was by far my favorite character. Just because of her
Yeah, she was
personality.
very fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like
Eh,
constantly trying to sleep with David and pretty much everyone.
yeah, but she's this short girl who just is hella fun. Like she's just always like, "Yo, let's go party, let's go do all this stuff." And then like the next second, she's like, "I'm going to kill
She's like
everybody."
almost the definition of guns blazing.
Yes. To where she literally is just running in and shooting and everything else, but then she's so small that the others will literally just like grab her when they need to.
Yeah.
Or like when her brother dies, like Kiwi literally just knocks her out and incapacitates her because she has the
Yeah.
power too. Which is also kind of freaky to know that someone could just like turn you off if they wanted
Yeah,
to.
that was so the character I started playing as the Cyberpunk, I tended to focus on building out my hacking skills, and it is really cool to be. And that was another thing they pointed out or that they borrowed from the game is like specific hacks, like being able to disable everyone's weapons in an area. Like that's the one I like to do a lot because that's I'll like disable someone's gun and just like run at them because I'm like, you can't do shit now.
Oh my god, yeah, that's crazy. But she was really fun. The whole thing being, I guess, like all she had was her brother, more or less. And then once he died, she was like, well,
Yeah.
shit. But the crew is what's important after that. And then she starts getting into David at a certain point, but pretty much once the time jump happens, she's always just like, come on, please, like,
Yeah.
please. And it's funny because like I think she talks to Kiwi about it, and Kiwi's like, you're not the right, you're lacking what everything Lucy has, I guess, more or less. And at that point, Lucy's not even really there. She's just like at home every day. But Rebecca's just like, I don't know what to do, to the point where, it gets her very much like in danger because she's willing to risk everything for David anytime, even if there's nothing on the other side for her, to the point where, they rescue Lucy, as she does for David. And on their way out, what's his face? Adam Smasher just shows up and literally crushes her.
Just like stomps her. Like that was so sudden that I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
That
that
sucks.
that was I was so just like, man, this show sucks now when that happened. Like the minute it happened, I was honestly like, yeah, I don't really care
Yeah,
anymore.
Chris was very not happy about that. He
Yeah,
wanted her to survive.
it's funny too, because when you look on a lot of people, like she's everyone's favorite, which is like,
Yeah.
it's just the personality. It's just how gun-toting funny they are and stuff. But
So something about someone having like such a small physical presence but being so like loud is very fun.
yes, yes, very much so. And yeah, she just gets got, and it sucks. And honestly, like I straight up, when we watched it, a bunch, like half of us were just like, yeah, I'm fine with the show ending now. Like I
Yeah.
don't really care as much anymore.
Have they said if they're gonna do a season two
I don't
or
know. I'm honestly, I'm not gonna, unless it's like out there visibly, I'm probably not gonna look at it because it's not something I don't really care for a season two, especially the
yeah.
way it ends. Like I'm good with the way it ended,
I
honestly.
I think it'd be cool if they continued it with like different characters.
Now, if they do other
Just
characters, yeah, that'd be, I guess, interesting. They just
yeah.
like they did the whole watch out for Cyber Psycho story. Like they can't do Cyber Psycho shit again, probably.
No.
It'd be kind of boring if they keep doing that every time, because then you could just see the depression already happening a mile away. But
Yeah.
Lucy is a very interesting character. She was part of
Yeah.
she was more or less a weapon
Yeah,
that had
I
escaped. I
I
did
don't know
not
if they
see that coming.
cover like they must talk about this in the game somewhere, but like I found it really interesting that some like cyber hacker basically crashed almost all of the original internet just for fun, I guess. And yeah, so Lucy was one of a bunch of kids that Arasaka trained to be like the best net runners you can be, to try to just like scour what's left of the old internet for useful bits of data. And it was like literally killing everyone. And so she like it's I don't know, it was interesting that she had that backstory and then she was able to get away and just like still has all that cyber hacking skill. Like, I don't know. I thought she was a really cool character.
Definitely, and the whole thing with her being like having the goal of going to the moon, which was interesting, especially in a world that just seems so fucked up. And you're like, oh, the moon's probably gonna be really nice, and you get there, and it just seems like a weird, like, it feels like I'm
Tourist
going to a national.
destination.
Yeah, I'm like, is this like it feels like I'm going to a national park that's heavily commercialized, if that makes
It,
sense.
it just now occurred to me that like her whole life she basically was just like running from Arasaka like as far as she could get. And it makes sense that literally that's probably why she wanted to go to the moon, because that's literally as far away as you could get
Yeah,
from her
actually, that
problems.
is very true. It's not like Blade Runner where it's like, yeah, we went to a mining colony and I came back and I'm a robot and I said, fuck y'all.
Yeah.
But Rutger Hauer, what a great guy. Um, but her whole thing of being like, you see her as a thief and then as the pretty much hacker, or one of the hackers for the group, to uh yeah, doing all her net running online and everything else, which was very crazy. And then once like you have Maine dying, she very much just gets into a melancholy state where she
Well,
just
she focuses on hunting down anyone who might know anything about David and the cyber skeleton, because
yeah,
she knew if David ever put that cyber skeleton on like Arasaka wanted, it would basically kill him eventually.
yeah.
So it was very interesting to see her just like destroying people left and right and just basically being like the boogeyman. And you're just like, why is she doing this? It's like it
And then
literally is just
David
because of
comes home
David.
and she just looks tired and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, what's going on?" I mean, the way it feels like too is it just looks like someone's just depressed and doesn't want to do anything anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's insane what she's been doing in the back end the whole fucking time.
Like because
Really cool.
he literally is like, hey, you think about maybe coming back and doing some work for us because we'd love to have you back. And she's like, no, I'm just not ready yet. And the reality is like, no, I need all my time to protect you.
Which is insane, like
Yeah.
just how that's going on. And you see David, and I'm not sure how long that time jump is, but I can't remember because I know
I
like
want to say at least a few years
it's been a
because
few years.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it's really hard to tell because he did seem to get like literally taller and way more jacked, but he also got a lot more
He
implants.
paid for those. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
this is a world where you don't feel like there's hard work in terms of like the progress you make.
Well, that was why I was kind of confused when the Maine has Lucy put him on a physical exercise regimen because she's basically they try to say that the more healthy your like organic parts are, the better off you'll be able to handle like your main augment, the Sandevistian, and then maybe whatever else you want to get later on. And but yeah, it's like at a certain point when you replace like 80% of your body with metal parts, like how much physical exercise do you really need anymore? Like, does that really help? Like he replaced his lungs at one point.
Yeah, that was horrifying. God, I just fuck that world. I can't wait to play it, but fuck that world. Yeah. So that was crazy. Otherwise, I don't know. Is there anything else you got on Lucy?
No, just cool net runner.
Yeah. David himself, tragic. Everything that happens with his mom. He grew up in shit town,
He's basically
in the bigger
constantly
shit
losing
town.
everything he cares about.
Yeah. He grew up in the shittier town within the bigger shit town. It's like everything is shit, but that one was covered a little bit more shit than the other parts.
Yeah, like
Uh,
his way to get to school every morning was to jump off of his stairs into a pile of trash because the rest of the stairs were covered in like a wall of trash.
yes. And then you just see like right outside his house is just like dying people practically, more or
Yeah.
less, or just bums and whatnot, or homeless people. I'm not too sure, whatever they were, because who knows what, I don't even know.
It's also kind
And
of sad, like when his mom died, they show his like routine for a little while, and he's like he just becomes part of the city for a bit, just like all those other people that were just sitting around.
yeah, yeah. And he feels, I guess, alive doing stuff with the crew until Maine goes like nutto, and uh you get the jump of time, and yeah, he looks like a fucking buff big dude who's like, yeah, I'm the new Maine, more or less. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh
I don't
yeah.
know how you possibly modify one of Maine's arms to fit even the more jacked version of David. Like that arm should not have fit at all. It should have been um like Hellboy's fist.
But what was more insane was the fact that he's pushing himself that much that hit the uh cyber psycho hits much 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 sooner than Maine does. Like David probably has a
Yeah.
record time of like that shit hitting in within him, even though he has a very 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 strong will that he's like able to maintain everything for however long he did. But it's just like so fucked up where it's just like, yeah, you're gonna turn into a fucking nutcase soon and going completely insane
Yeah.
and kill everything around you potentially. But I think it's even crazier the fact that all these dudes do all this stuff where they're like, yeah, I basically have like a 5-year lifespan because I'm gonna do all this crazy stuff to
Yeah,
my
that's the
body
thing.
and it's gonna screw me over in like not that long.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't understand about the cyberpunk world is that like everyone knows that there's this underlying danger of like if you modify yourself too far, you might start to dissociate like your mind from your body, and that's when the psychosis starts to like set in. So why anyone even does all those implants if the chance, if like the trade-off is you might go literally insane. Why?
Yeah. I think like it's the same thing. I mean, at certain points, sometimes like drugs and shit and enhancements will do that too, where you're just
Yeah,
like, yeah, but I need to do it for some whatever purpose they have to do it for. So I guess you could see that in the same style, if anything. Um, but otherwise, yeah, it's like ultimately his undoing, but he becomes like insane when he gets the cyber skeleton and everything else. Becomes like literally a war machine
yeah,
where
he's basically like a torso
yeah, I'm
inside of a
like, bro,
mech.
you're dude, when he did that, my first thought was like, bro, your dick's got you left your dick behind. Where's your dick at? Like
I
that
did
was
love that, like,
horrifying.
he basically had magnet arms and he was just like pulling everyone's guns into his hands, and then he just has like gun fingers.
Yeah, God. I mean, more or less, like that skeleton was like he turned into a monster. Or even like no, when they saw him like that, they're just like, yep,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty
He
fucked up.
basically was like, I know I'm already going cyber psycho. The last thing I can do with my life that might be worthwhile is saving Lucy.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna go 100% with this. And I know it's gonna kill me. I'm dying anyway. So let's just do it.
yeah.
And now I got like I can fly and I've got gravity crushing powers.
Yeah, you got to have a hyper rush for like a good 2 minutes. And then even then it's crazy, Adam Smasher just like or not Adam Smash is was it that it was no.
Yeah, the 100% cyborg dude, that's Adam Smasher, which
Okay.
I know is really confusing because there's a DC character who's literally named Adam Smasher,
Yeah, it
and
really affects
that's
me.
gonna be in,
Black
he's
Adam.
gonna be in Black Adam.
Yeah, he's a Justice Society character. He's also in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon as well.
Mm.
If you ever notice, there's a giant guy there. That is Adam Smasher. But yeah, it was insane seeing that. And I haven't played it yet, but everyone's like, oh my god, now I gotta go. Everyone's like after watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners, like I gotta go play Cyberpunk and fucking kill Adam Smasher because apparently he's in it and is a
Yeah, from what I've
boss.
heard, he's like not a very satisfying boss. Like they play him up a lot and he ends up being like not that crazy,
Mm.
especially not compared to like Adam Smasher in the anime, where he's just like David is just laying waste to like hundreds of dudes, and Adam Smasher's like, "You're weak. You're nothing."
So like kind of like General Grievous when
Yeah,
like you have him in the micro series and he's killing Jedi left and right, and then Mace Windu's like, and he's just like, oh fuck, and then you see him in Revenge of the Sith in the movie, and he's just like,
yeah,
like the whole fucking time. It's great. It's funny too because majority of the people that watch that movie never saw that cartoon and they're just like, why is this dude coughing all the time? And it's like, dude, Mace Windu just fucking force
yeah.
crushed him, like
I just
literally crushed him
assumed,
with his hand from a distance.
yeah, I just assumed that that cough was just part of whatever accident made him have to have a mostly mechanical body, because he didn't used to always look like that.
No, yeah, it's really funny because you have him in that show and he's a complete badass. Then you put him in the movie and he's just a dude that dies because he's just
Yeah,
literally his lungs were crushed. And then in the longer form Clone Wars cartoon, he's literally just a fucking Cobra villain who's just like next time, Joe, and
yeah,
he's just kind of whatever. Like he's definitely not as good as he was in the micro series. Sorry, Dave Filoni, but he's just like 20 times not as cool. Uh, and yeah, anyway, Adam Smasher. It'll be interesting to fight him in the show. I mean, in
yeah,
the game. Otherwise, yeah, David was cool. I think I think the story itself was fine. It was just kind of like an adventure. I think it was really honestly just the animation itself that was just really sublime
yeah.
and strengthened the show, and that's why everyone was just like, this fucking show. But in terms of its quality, I don't think it's like the best video game adaptation. I don't think it's close either. Um, especially knowing that we
Uh,
have Arcane. Like Arcane is still like top tier, whereas this I think is great to an extent, but I'd still say it's just kind of good more than anything. And it's just the animation that's amazing more than anything. So
yeah. I don't know. Like it definitely wasn't very heavy on plot, but I did really appreciate the art style, and like we literally just talked about, like we liked all the characters individually.
yeah,
So
I guess you could say it does a great job to the point where I think it's just I don't like the fact that I'm like extremely depressed after it. Like it's not even
Nah,
like
that's fair.
all the characters you feel a certain extent of sadness for. I think I felt bad for David more so because everything if it was just David without his mom, I wouldn't have felt as bad, but specifically because of everything his mom did and that's how he ends everything is why everything feels like shit. And then Rebecca just
Yeah.
dying like that also felt like shit. And then otherwise like you kind of get more annoyed. I think looking back now, I think I got more annoyed at Maine and David just for like literally choosing to kill themselves because they could. And I'm like, all right, well, you literally know what's going to happen if you do this, but you did it anyway. So it's your own fault,
Yeah.
more or less. So yeah,
I mean, that's like kind of like a an ongoing thing in the Cyberpunk game is that like basically no one dies a happy death in Night City. It's like that's how you become a legend of the city is you basically like live long enough to have like a cool end and that's it,
yeah,
which is again very depressing.
yeah, extremely so. I'm like, I'm God. If this game also is depressing, I'm gonna be like, I need to go back to The Witcher so I can have a happy time.
Yeah.
But just be sad that it's over more than anything because that was the melancholy feeling finishing Witcher. Witcher 3 was one of those few games where I finished it and I'm like, but what happens next?
Mm.
But all right. Anything else with Edgerunners?
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
Okay, cool. But okay, now more into backlog stuff, and depending on what you want to talk about, we can definitely go in between things. I do want to get one thing out of the way, really, like just to start off and everything else. But um, way back when, I don't even know when I did this. Oh yeah, this is also at the end of June. Jesus Christ. Mayans season 4. So you know, I've talked about this before. I don't think I talked about Sons of Anarchy on here, but I have talked about like more or less all 4 seasons of Mayans on here, I think at different points. And the first 3 seasons really being really good. Like they did a great job. And the 4th season here is still really good. It just gets fucking dark. Like it changes abruptly in terms of not abruptly, but you feel a great darkness come over the show where it's even Sons of Anarchy in its darkest moments were lighter than this, I think, more or less. But
Interesting.
um this because this is such a dark season because it has everything from child murder to the betrayal killing of just innocent people and stuff.
Jesus.
And an interesting style of storytelling and character expansion. You start off with really just the Reyes brothers and I guess looking at all 4 seasons, they do a really good job. I think the greatest strength of the show is it will start off very small in terms of storytelling with the characters. Like the first season, it's just the Reyes brothers, like Easy and Angel. Easy's the main character of the show and everything else, but it's really just about them, and you're getting their perspectives and everything else. The other characters are just kind of there doing their thing, but you know all their names. You know they like you're noticing tendencies of them and whatnot and traits of their characters, but you're not following them. You're really just following these two. And uh by the time like each season starts a new season, like each new season comes, it extends to more of the members of the crew and starts telling more of their stories too. And you're starting to get multi perspectives. So now it's just not Easy and Angel. And now you're getting more people. Like in season 1, it's just Race Bros. In season 2, you get Mama Galindo or Mrs. Galindo, who is not, I don't want to say an antagonist, but she's someone that's like a very big truth behind the like tragedy of the Reyes family. Because like the whole thing is their mom is dead, and there's some shit that goes down, and it pretty much is the reason why everything in the show is happening. But it's like her and Adelita, um, who is this more or less someone that not a cartel leader, but she is like almost like a Mexican rebel who still smuggles drugs and stuff, but has like a child army more or less. Like she has children that work for her and other stuff, and they actually try to go to war with the cartel and stuff. It's very
Like
interesting.
how young children?
Like kids,
Ugh.
Like they don't really fight, but like they work for her and do shit. There are adults that fight and everything else. It's like a weird mix, but she takes in orphans and stuff. Like she gives them homes. Like
Mm,
she's like, you
mm.
can live with us, but you have to, do whatever. Um, it's when you watch it, you're like, oh, okay. You don't really think too much about it being horrible because you're like, well, where else are they gonna go and everything else? But season 3, you start getting other characters like Bishop, who's the MC leader of that specific chapter. Coco, Taz, and Hank, who are these other characters. Taz being uh a like second in command, but also a closeted gay guy who his own personal vendetta with the dude who killed like the man he loved turns like a whole thing that fucks over the club a couple times, but he keeps it a secret to the point where he kills one of their own members.
Oh
Uh
damn.
yeah, who's in like the hospital. He's like on support and he's just like, sorry, you gotta die so we could go to war with these people. So because the whole thing was like,
Oh
if he stays alive, then it won't the rules say like they don't have to go to war with the club, another group of people. But because if he dies, then they're like, well, they're the ones that did it. We have to go
damn,
kill
that's
them all now.
cold.
Yeah. And then season 4 introduces like Gilly and Creeper more so, which Creeper is like this dude that always just looks hella weird. He's got like just bald head, tattoos everywhere, and you find out like he's inside kind of a softie, and he kind of gets screwed over because this woman he starts dating from like an AA meeting turns out to be an undercover cop and everything else, and you're just like, oh no, she's trying to get through use him to get to the MC and whatnot. It's actually kind of crazy, but yeah, more or less. And uh pretty much like what happens here is easy. He starts off in this show as a what do you call it? Uh Crap, what was their names? I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember the name, but they're like interns more or less. Oh, prospect.
I was
Pretty
gonna say
much
pledge or something like
yeah,
that.
they're a prospect, and it's like intern. He's like an intern. But
Eh.
I want to say the second and third season, he's like a full fledged member at a certain point, and then this one, he gets very very ambitious, like very dark and ambitious, where it's like his descent into villainy, where each action he takes furthers him down a dark path to where it's like no going back pretty much like he in the last season does some questionable shit where he's like, there's 3 leaders of our motorcycle club, and we should really just have one leader. They're called like the 3 kings, and he tells like Bishop like, you should be the king. And because there's so much issue, the other 2 kings are like pushing them because their club specifically, their chapter specifically, is the one that like connects with the border. So they're like the pipeline for the drugs that come in from Mexico. And a lot of shit's been happening, so they all blame them for like everything getting fucked up. And to the point where like uh they're almost gonna squeeze them to death, being like, you need to bring all this shit up, and that means you guys aren't going to get that much out of it, but you need to make sure the rest of us don't get fucked over either. And he's like, you can be the one king, but that means we have to take out the other 2 kings, and it starts a whole fucking civil war basically within the club. And at first you're like, oh, that's not the worst thing, but at a certain point, to try to kill one of the leaders, Easy actually like bombs a workshop that has him in it along with some of his guys, but also his kid is in there too,
Oh
and he still
shit.
does it. And you're just like, oh fuck. And apparently I think the kid survived, but it was just like, dude, what the fuck? And this season, it's just him like, because he was gonna leave it all for his girlfriend who is trying to become a nurse, and his dad is like, Easy has like a real big darkness in him, like I do. You need to leave him behind. He'll come with you and go with you. He'll put all this behind him, but hit that darkness will still probably be within him, and it's not good for you. You should leave. And she does it. And so once he feels cut off, he's just like, yo, fuck it. I'm gonna go all the way in. And he does everything from like they almost all die. Like the other clubs basically group up on them, kill some of the guys that tried to side with them, and then are just like, yeah, we're gonna execute all of you. Like they end up pretty much capturing them all until like the old original president of the club comes back, and it's just like, y'all are listening to me again, fuck you guys. and there's no more Three Kings because I'm in charge. And it saves them a bit until like Easy plans the assassinate. Like he pretty much they go and assault a group. What the remaining other leader that like led that assault on them, he shoots him. He's just like, "Cool, we did it," and he's like, "Yep," and then he just shoots him in the head, and you're like, blah, 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 "Oh my god!" And other things happen to the point where he kills his own girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at that point because him and Angel accidentally go to like they go to this hospital where they have to like take out someone or do something, and it's the
Damn,
hospital where
how many people they kill in hospitals?
not often. This is like the one point, but like they're
Uh,
doing something in the hospital and they're getting chased by like a security guy, and Angel pretty much kills him. And a nurse tries to help, and you see, and it's like his ex-girlfriend from the previous 2 seasons, and you're like, oh my god! And they take her because she knows who they are, and she's like, "Easy,
he
you're
finds her again.
yeah," because she had just happened to work at the hospital that they were in, doing
Oh,
shit in, trying to kill some guy. And she's like, Angel killed that security guard, and he's like, he should, he's my brother. And she's like, yeah, that man had a whole family. I knew him. He was a really good guy. Like he wasn't a bad guy. He was just a security guard for this hospital, and your brother killed him in cold blood. Like he needs to answer for it. And
damn.
so she's like, please, you're a good guy. I know you're not a bad person. And so he's like, well, I got to save my brother. So he just shoots her. And even Angel's like, what the fuck did you do? We both know who that was. Like, what's wrong with you? But over time, Easy does all this shit to where he orchestrates like the club's president. He his own downfall gets orchestrated because Easy votes him out, being like, you're not doing what's best for us and all this shit. So you're out too. And then Easy goes like, make me the president. And you think the whole time like Bishop, who was before, the club president, that chapter's president, uh, he's like, oh, cool, Easy's gonna make me the club president. And Easy's like, I'm president now. And you're just like, oh shit. And he's like, anyone got a problem with that? And it's just like, oh, okay, to the point where he even like threatens his own brother at a certain point. And you're just like, what happened? You were literally the nicest guy, and now you are literally the evilest person in this
Jesus.
show, and it's insane. But other characters like Galindo, who's like this cartel leader, he was like pretty much the villain before, and now he's just at a church uh with his, I think, aunt or something. And he feels like he's become pious and not a bad dude anymore. And then he just like goes back and is like, hey, I'm back. I'm gonna work with the other cartel that ran me out. It's ran by like this brother or sister, and the brother's a piece of shit. So Galindo works with the sister, kills the brother, and is like, we're gonna work together, and now our cartel is gonna be the ultimate cartel and shit. To the point where his wife, who is also Easy's like childhood sweetheart, or pretty much like high school, college sweetheart, is like in hiding from her husband with her sister and her child because he tried to kill her at one point because he got really paranoid because of who killed his mom. And he finds her again, and he's like, hey, I have our son, time to come back home. And she's like, what the fuck did you do? And he's like, I have her son. It's like, wait, my sister was watching our son. Where's my sister? And he's like, she got in the way. And you're just like, you were
Dude,
just at a
what?
church this whole time, like learning to be a better person, and that's what you do when you come back. I'm just like, what the? Yeah. So all that shit happens.
Damn.
Yeah, it gets really fucking dark this season.
Yeah, that show sounds incredibly dark.
It's funny because it's like,
Oh, wait, this is all in one season?
yes.
Oh my
Well,
god.
for this part, yeah, because there's the other seasons don't have this specific thing of like all this shit happening. Like Easy blowing up a workshop was in the last season and stuff, but season 5, when they finally do that, it's gonna have a little more to solve because it's like the cartel hand change. The whole thing was like there was a heroin supply, and it was gonna go to the Mayans and stuff, and someone burns the heroin. There was a giant like pyramid of heroin, more or less. It was a giant wall, but it felt like a giant pyramid. Someone burns it all, so it's gone. It's all gone. And you think one of the Mayans did it. Maybe it's Easy's brother Angel because of all the shit's doing. He's like, I need to save this dude from himself. I'm gonna burn all the fucking heroin. Um, and pretty much Adelita's being forced to it's all this shit, but basically like uh Easy being the head and the Sons of Anarchy are pretty much going to go to war. I think, or one of the main, there's a dude, the Sons of Anarchy, the guys from the original show, their club finds out that like the Mayans had killed one of their guys a long time ago, and they're like, "Oh, the war is going to be back on." And one of the, I forget which dude, but one guy's brother is pretty much like, they call him the Reaper, and he's like, "I'm going to war with the Mayans. I'm going to kill them all." And he like starts off straight up by like burning 3 of them alive. Uh, in this one,
Damn.
and one of them is actually a cool guy that is like, we got to unite again. We can't have all this infighting and stuff, because he's like, the Aztecs used to be the most powerful people, and they started warring amongst themselves. But then the Spanish came, and what's going to happen when our Spanish come? Like, we got to unite. He's one of the dudes that gets just fucking burned alive, and you're just like, oh Jesus Christ. But um it's weird because it started off with justice and attempting to survive the darkness and everything else, but now it's just, yeah, it's becoming full dark, and you can only assume that there's going to be like a certain point where it's going to turn from like really bad fucking shit to some point of redemption, where whoever's been going down the dark paths, especially easy, are gonna have some form of redemption arc. But the way it's going right now, I feel like, I don't know, because Sons of Anarchy lasted a good amount of time, like 7 or 8 seasons. I think this one could probably, or it should probably just go for 5 or 6 seasons, so like 1 or 2 more, and then it could probably just kind of stop, just so it doesn't get too big for its britches. But
Right.
it's so far maintained its course of like quality, but it doesn't, like, the way it's going, you feel like there's an end point coming at a certain point. So yeah.
All right.
Did you want to hit something up, or?
Yeah, I could talk about Scorn real quick, just because I just finished that earlier today. And it just came out on Friday,
Mhm.
and like I've been looking forward to this game for a while. Like literally, this was one of the games that made me buy an Xbox Series X because I thought it would come out sooner, and I
Ah,
was not.
yes.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I built myself a gaming PC, so I just played it on that. So at this point, I'm really regretting just buying a Series X because I could have waited a little bit longer and saved myself some money. But I mean, I still use my Series X from time to time. But uh,
How often's
it's
time to time?
like I'll play Destiny on it with Chris. That's basically it. And
Oh
like,
man.
yeah,
So if Destiny became crossplay, wait, isn't
it
Destiny
is
cross?
though, and he just doesn't want to play it on PC. Which, like, granted, we could still play it that way. It's just like it's not this smooth as just being on Xbox together. But anyway, so I very much appreciated that Scorn is only like 5 or 6 hours, depending on how quickly it takes you to get through the puzzles and stuff. So it doesn't overstay its welcome. I was pulled into this game mostly because the art style is very unique. It's based off of like HR Giger, and
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the name of the artist, but it was the same, I think, Polish artist that the Medium based its art style off of. So very bleak, very like mix of organic and machine stuff all over the place. Like if anyone listening to this has ever watched Alien, like the scenes early on in the movie when they're walking through the space jockey ship and the hallways look like they're made of like rib cages and stuff like that. Like it's a machine, but it might have been grown into the shape it is. There's a
Horrifying.
lot. Yeah, it's like very creepy, very alien feeling and looking, and that is basically the entire selling point of Scorn, at least for me. Like it's a first person game, like there is some shooting elements, but that's like really not the focus. And it's like honestly most of the time it's more frustrating to fight things than it is like to feel like good feeling or whatever. Like
I mean, is it supposed to be that you're not supposed to fight at things
it's
more
definitely
so?
supposed to be like a challenge to kill things. Like you're not supposed to be like super like capable of defending yourself and stuff like that. Like, and it's just most of what this game did for me was in its atmosphere. Like it was very creepy, very unsettling. There's not much of a soundtrack. It's just like ambient tones and stuff, but it really sets the mood. And just there's a lot of interesting imagery in this game. Like I I don't even know if there's much spoilery to it because it's like that nothing
Is
is
there really even a story?
not really like it's all just you get a sense of what happened to this world, but nothing is explicitly spelled out to you. There are no like collectibles that I was able to find. There are no like voice logs. There is no dialogue.
It's just you running around putting shit in your body and being like, oh fuck, it's
Yeah,
disgusting.
like there's a lot of weird shit like having to graft things onto your body. Like the key to you that you use to get through a bunch of like or to interface with a bunch of pedestals and stuff is just like this weird thing that just gets bolted onto the back of your hand. Your key card, for lack of a better word, that you use to get through different level doors throughout the game is like it looks like a weird fleshy thing. And like so it's interesting that all the technology seems to be part organic. Like your guns are look like living things, and it's very interesting and unique, and like it's very intentionally slow.
Hmm.
Like you have to manually reload. Well, I mean, you don't have to like hit the reload button for every single bullet that you do, but it's just like it's a very slow reload animations and stuff like that. And there's a lot of interesting shit. Like you seem to start the game as a different character than you end it with. And like the first one I thought died, but then like you come back as like another weird husk thing, and you just like find your way back to the same area that like your previous body was in. And I didn't like notice this at first, but when you get back to that area, there's this weird like reptilian looking thing crawling on the walls, and like you kind of chase it around. And I noticed that like
Catch lizard, huh?
yeah, and like I noticed that the gun thing that your first character had before he seemed to like die in like an accident, like that seemed to be attached to the tail of the lizard, and I didn't think much of it other than like, oh, that thing like stole the weapon or whatever from the body. But now I'm pretty sure that that thing might just be like what the stuff that killed your first character might have not killed it, but like mutated it into this weird parasitic life form thing.
Oh my.
Because it like it latches onto your second character, and then throughout the entire rest of the game is just like slowly merging with you more. And like every once in a while it just will just do damage to you when you get to like a certain point in each level, and it literally looks like it's trying to rip your guts out for whatever reason. And the whole time I'm just like, what is with this thing on my back? Like because it also holds your inventory. So I was just
What the
like,
fuck?
yeah, like literally like it like its arms seem to be simultaneously holding on to you and like gripping you painfully tight, and like also
Hmm.
occasionally trying to rip pieces out of you. But then also when you hit the inventory button, it'll just like hold up its arms and hold like a couple of things for you. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Is this thing trying to like eat me, or is it helping me? Like, and that was one of the things that annoyed me was I was not a fan of just like randomly losing health throughout the game when your resources are very limited. So there were times in the game where I was like really running low on health, and I was just like, please, I hope this lizard thing doesn't deal damage to me now, because like it'd be really annoying to just get like stuck because I just don't have enough health. And thankfully that never happened. But there's just some weird puzzles in this game involving like weird gory shit. Like one of the things, I shit you not, the best way I can describe it is like a baby juicer. You just put a baby looking corpse thing into a cylinder, and it just squishes all the blood out of it into a vial that you use somewhere else. And I'm just like, this shit's fucking weird, dude. So
So
if you're not
and then
in,
pretty much it's just like body horror, but it's like
yeah,
so
there's a
it's not really
lot of
like you're
that.
just like I'm scared. It's more like just like I just feel kind of uncomfortable and disturbed.
Yeah, there's no like jump scares in the game. I mean, there's like maybe the one when the lizard like comes out of nowhere and like attaches itself to you, but like
It's
there's
dangerous to go alone. Take this.
yeah. So it's more just like gross and unsettling than it is scary. So if you're
Sounds
not
like it.
into watching or looking at like weird creepy shit for like 5 maybe 6 hours, like then this game is not going to be for you. But I really liked it. It gives me a lot to think about because there's like some shit towards the end that was like makes me want to know more about like whatever this civilization was. Because like the best way I can describe the last level of the game is basically like Sex City. Because there were just like really erotic like statues all over the city of just like male female pairs in literally just the best way I could describe it is erotic positions. And I'm just like, yo, whoever built this city was like really pro sex. Like,
And now look what happened.
yeah, and it's just like that's the
This
thing. It
lizard's
makes
on your fucking arm.
And that's the thing is like it makes me wonder like what happened to this civilization? Like, is all the fleshy bits like all over the place? Was that something that happened
Fleshy
to them?
bits.
Or was that just something that like one of their creations went too far and just like
Mm.
started spreading? Like towards the end of the game, you seem to basically like almost like you hook your character up to a hive mind looking thing to try to get to a weird void portal, but you don't quite get there. Like it's like the end of the game is very bleak and depressing
Sounds
because
like it.
it seems like you're trying to get your character to some sort of like maybe afterlife or get yourself to like wherever the rest of the beings living on this planet went, and the parasite thing just basically stops you. And like so that's I guess going back to why I'm like there aren't really spoilers to this game is like there is no plot. It's all about the journey, and like most of the journey is just like looking at the interesting environments along the way and just like trying to avoid the creepy monsters and stuff. And it's like I played it on Game Pass, so I don't know if I spent like 30 or 40 bucks on it if I would be as like
How much is it?
honestly, I should look that up because
Yeah.
I do not know.
Do you
Uh
feel like it lived up to the hype that it was letting on because of how long it took and how much they kept like talking about it so long?
uh I think that really does depend on how into the art style you are. Because if you're not into the art style, you're gonna play this game and be like, this game's gameplay is shit, and I'm not interested. Because the puzzles are not particularly like complicated or hard. It's just like, and there's also a lot of times that I was honestly frustrated with like having a hard time figuring out where to go because they do not tell you anything. So you sometimes might have to just like wander around until you stumble upon like the solution, and that doesn't feel very fun. But uh oh, okay, Scorn is $40.
Is it
I don't
worth
know.
$40?
For like a 5 hour, it's such a hard thing to say. Like I don't want to say that it's not worth $40 just because it's like a 5 hour game, but it's like definitely there's not much replayability to it. I don't think
I
unless
mean, the way you
you
describe it, it doesn't sound like something I'd want to play again personally.
unless you're like really you want to know, because like there's a few things in the early part of the game that like I might need to replay just to be like, what did this mean? Because like it kind of like skipped over this thing real quick, and then like maybe it makes sense seeing what happened later. Go if I go back to the beginning, maybe it might like make some things make more sense. But that's like I also hate to say this. You could just like go to YouTube and like watch someone else's analysis and be like and just see what other people think and stuff like that.
And be like,
It's
wow, I
not
saved myself so much time.
yeah, and it's like it's not exactly the same, but it's like I I personally am not that into like scary games most of the time, and at least this game wasn't all like jump scares and stuff. It was mostly just like an interesting, gross, creepy, atmospheric game,
Hmm.
but it still was stressing me out. So like I don't know if I personally would want to like go back and replay it again, but it's definitely like worth at least subscribing to Game Pass for like a month to play it. Uh I if you really really are into the art style and you really want to support the developer, then I would still say it's worth $40, but it's going to be a hard sell for most people at
I
$40.
mean, that doesn't help its case if you say it's worth the money if you like the art in the game.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you really like it's, if you really like playing the game, pay for it. But it's like if you were like looking at the stuff, God, it doesn't sound, that just doesn't sound
And at that point, I might
sound.
have just be like, if you're into that art style, just literally look up H.R. Giger's art because that still
Yeah.
exists, and it's also still really interesting and creepy and weird.
It definitely does sound like a game where it's like if it wasn't on Game Pass, um,
Yeah,
it's not something necessarily that I would pick up personally. Just from what you say, trusting your judgment there, but
I think like so. I do, like I said, I like when a game is vague enough that it gives the audience like room to discuss like
yeah,
what the meaning of everything was. But Scorn, I think, was a little bit too far into just like showing you a bunch of interesting stuff, but explaining literally nothing of it. So I'm left more confused at the end than just like interested, I guess.
I
But
think
I'm still interested. It's
that
just
could be
not,
their
I'm more
goal is they
confused.
want you to think about that shit, even though there's no answers. It's a way to have confusion occupy your mind, so then their game occupies your mind.
Yeah,
Would you say?
exactly.
Yeah. So
No, that
that's
sounds
not
about right.
necessarily a good thing. It's actually kind of mean, but I get that idea where it's like we don't want to actually give you the answer. We probably don't even have the actual answer. It's like remember when in Resistance when Insomniac made the Cloven,
Yeah.
and then they're like, we actually don't really have an end game for that. It was just like, why did you make it? The whole thing of like, it looked cool at the time, and
Yeah.
and it was fucking cool. But then when it's the letdown of like, oh, you couldn't figure out what it was at the end, or like George R. R. Martin, he can't fucking figure out his fucking books, and it's like, I'm so nervous, I can't figure out what's better because my show fucked up. That I didn't
His
really
problem is he's got too many ideas. He can't just like
love
commit,
dragons.
seems
I made
like.
more. We made more
Yeah.
dragons. Don't you like the dragons? Yeah. So okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Overall, Scorn, I think, was a really cool game. It's just like gonna be a hard sell at $40 for most people.
Understandable.
Unless you're really into like interesting, different, unique art styles.
Okay. I guess I'll do Riverdale season 6. Oh boy, guys. Oh fucking boy. This one will probably be brief, but this is a very interesting season because they got very, very supernatural with this shit. So it went from like, it's everyone in Riverdale doing their thing and trying to stop like basically people trying to buy up properties and turn things into malls or whatever the fuck, bulldoze society, whatever, to hey, superpowers and magic are here now. Are you all ready for this? And it's like, is this the same show?
Mhm.
Is each of the main characters got superpowers. So Archie is invulnerable. He's like super. He can't be like he has like rock hard skin or like he has impenetrable skin. He's like Archie's
You've
Luke
already
Cage.
lost me.
Archie becomes Luke Cage.
Okay.
Jughead can read minds. Betty, and he can also go into minds somewhat. Betty can see people's auras, so to see if they're like doing something fucked up or not. Like she can feel this, she could sense the type of aura they put off.
So sort of like an empath, but more specific, I
I
guess.
guess. Veronica is like a Black Widow. She her kiss basically or having sex with her, I guess she gives off
Oh,
poison. Like she has sex with the guy and she's like, oh fuck, he's dead. And it's like she
weird.
yeah, so she is like Black Widow poison power. Cheryl Blossom, the redhead, has firepower. She can basically she's like Phoenix firepower. She actually accidentally pretty much like incinerates a dude because of her emotions. She didn't even mean to. She's like, "Where'd he go? Oh shit, he's literally ashes now." And this character that appeared last season, Tabitha, who's supposed to be like there's a dude named Pops who owns like Pop's Diner, the dude that makes all the burgers. She's like the granddaughter. She is like an angel. She's like the guard. She becomes like a guardian angel type character, and all these. So they all get superpowers. And there's a fucking dude named Percival Pickens who's. They're like, oh, is he like the descendant of a dude who pretty much was like almost. He was like a Confederate guy, more or less. Like he did some fucked up shit to like I guess the native people there and all this other crap. And he never actually died. Apparently, he has been like eternally alive this whole time, and he has like mind control powers. and he's like, oh, I'm gonna basically open this like eldritch terror portal using a train. I'm gonna use these train tracks to open a portal, but I need you all to build me these train tracks. So I'm gonna basically mind control you all, also become the mayor to do all this shit, and like work against all of the gang to do this stuff. And they're like, we're gonna stop you, Percival. And
It seems like a very complicated plan.
it's yeah. And and they pretty much like at certain points, like I think a bunch of them die because it's like, oh, any firstborns die. And a bunch of the characters get killed, and they have Sabrina from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina show up to
I still
help
need to watch that
resurrect them
show.
all. And it's funny because do you care if I spoil Sabrina?
No, not really. It's
She dies
been
at
so
the
long.
end. She
Oh
fucking
wow.
yeah, she dies at the end. And she shows up in this, and she's also in like, I think I talked about it before when I talked about like that Flash event Armageddon, and there was like a Riverdale episode event too in this. Sabrina showed up at like the end of that too, but it was like an alternate dimension, so it was really weird. It didn't make any sense. And in this one, Sabrina's like, yeah, I died and I came back because my boyfriend brought me, he like did a thing that got me alive again. And he killed him, he sacrificed himself to do it. And it was like, oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
And like to help figure it all out, he uh goes into Jughead's body to because he's also a warlock, so he can help bring everyone back too. And she's like, cool, Nick's back. But also, Nick and I are going to go off to the side for a bit because we haven't seen each other in a long time because he's been dead. So they go and, they bang and shit. And you're just like, wait, but Jughead, that's Jughead's body. That's that girl's boyfriend.
Oh,
Oh, whatever. Okay, whatever. He's dead anyway
that's
at
what
this
you
point.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
oh, yeah.
it was really funny because it's like they couldn't get the actor
Yeah, they
in.
pulled the Wonder Woman 84.
It's just also more or less, but it's funny because, Nick Scratch is this character, like you couldn't get the actor for him, so they're like, hey, Jughead, can you also play this guy too? And or I guess like Dylan Sprouse, it's Dylan or Cole Sprouse, I forget which Sprouse kid it is from Sweet Life and Zack and Cody. It's like one of those two fucking kids. But they like bring everyone back, they reincorporate that whole alternate world of Riverdale, and more or less they use like the devil pretty much goes, Percival, you've like been screwing me over because you never gave me your soul, so I'm here to collect your ass. And then like a comet comes to destroy uh the world, or I guess Riverdale at the very least. But like they all use their powers to stop it and potentially lose their powers, but then their world turns into like 50s style Archie's world where it looks like the original
Oh,
Digest comics and stuff.
interesting.
And that's how it ends. And you're like, season 7's the final season after this. And I'm like, but I the only reason I'd watch it is because it's like there's only one season. What's the harm? And I'm like, but there's so many fucking episodes, and I don't even know what the hell is happening anymore. Like I don't
Oh, it's
even
like a CW show. So they're like 20 episodes per season or something.
Yeah, it's
Ooh.
fucking killer. And I'm just like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can maintain it. I shouldn't even watch this season. I shouldn't have done it. But it's just it's one of those things where it's so ridiculous you kind of can't help it. It was like Supernatural and Flash for a bit, but then I stopped both of those. Um it's not like Gotham. Gotham was cheesy, but it was like it was a very fine cheese where I enjoyed that cheese till the very end, and I was very satisfied the entire time. This, I'm just like, I want everything to end. Please stop everything. I can't take it anymore. Like, please. I don't even know what's happening. Last time the girl's dad was trying to beat everyone up and start a mall, and now you're saying a meteor is coming and this dude has powers, and I don't understand what's happening anymore. Yeah, that's Riverdale.
Eh,
Yeah. Uh, do you want to go in on Ponyo?
sure.
Yeah. So, dude, we watched Ponyo a bit ago, and it was, I think, the only Miyazaki film, not Ghibli, but Miyazaki film I hadn't seen. And I was I had bad reasonings for it, but I always saw it just the character Ponyo herself, and it's just like, oh, so it's about a weird goldfish. That sounds really strange. Like, I don't think I'd ever want to watch that. It sounds really kiddie. even though I've enjoyed certain like Miyazaki movies at this point. I'm like, that sounds a little too like childish to me, and I never watched it. And then finally, like Alamo played it, and I'm like, yo, dude, want to just go see this? And we went and saw it, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. Like, I don't know why I was such an idiot and didn't see this sooner.
Yeah, I'd seen it before. I don't remember if I saw it in English or Japanese, but if I had seen it in English, I totally forgot that Liam Neeson is the voice of Ponyo's dad, and I was just like, "Holy shit, is that Liam Neeson?"
Dude, yeah, it was so I cracked up when I found out it was him. I'm just like, oh shit. And he's just like, I'm Liam Neeson, I'm a water wizard. And I'm
Like,
like, what the fuck?
this might be one of the few instances where like the English voice cast was actually like really good.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how well it fit into the other films of having the undertones of environmentalism and just
Hmm.
like worrying about the earth and everything else. Like
Yeah, no,
it
Ponyo's dad was basically like a sea wizard who was trying to like fix the ocean
who is
because
formerly human. Yeah.
yeah, he like renounced his humanity because he was like, "Yo, humanity sucks. We just ruin everything. I'm gonna try to save the ocean
And I did
with
love
with
their
my
like
ocean queen."
I love the area they lived in too. It was so cool, just the way it's like, oh, the bridge, to get from one side of the fucking place to the other, it goes underwater. And watching the mother just like drive, like, hold on tight, kids, just like bulldoze through it was so like I think honestly the mother was my favorite character. Just
Yo, she was a badass.
she just did stuff where I mean she would just do everything. She wouldn't even care. She's like, I'm gonna do it. Oh, this weird girl came from God knows where. Come with us. Would you like some hot chocolate? You're part of the
Yeah,
family now. And I'm just like, she's
like
amazing. Mother of the year.
her son is saying like, "Hey mom, this is Ponyo, my goldfish. She grew up into a human." She's like, "Oh, that's nice, son."
Would you like some hot chocolate? That's
uh,
literally what happens. Like she just is like, cool, all right, you're sleeping here.
yeah,
Uh
like I love the worst storm that's ever hit the island is like raging around her car, and she's just like, "I don't care. I just gotta get home."
so good. And then once again, the animation is so freaking good. Everything
Oh
looks
yeah.
amazing. Everything, everything's cute, but it's like funny, but it's good. And I love the fact that I'm pretty sure when we were watching it, there was like some dad and daughter sitting there watching too, like eating popcorn and breakfast and stuff,
Yeah.
because we always go for brunch and stuff. But it's Miyazaki films are so amazing for all ages, like for the whole family, that everyone gets something out of it. But
Yeah.
it just yeah, it's just done so freaking well. And Ponyo for me, I think, isn't one it's not up the in the upper echelon of the Miyazaki films just because there's so many. It's hard to like there's no bad one, but it's hard to like throw some of them to the higher
Yeah.
points because some are just so good and so meaningful to you that it's like it's just difficult. And Ponyo's on the lower end, but by no means does that make it a bad film because it is
Yeah.
still really I think it's really good. If not
No,
great. Like it's a great film.
no, it's fantastic. It's just like you're right. There are so many amazing Miyazaki films that it's just like this is one of the ones that I unfortunately just like forget sometimes, just because like compare it to Princess Mononoke or like Castle in the Sky, like it's not as fantastic, but it's still just like a really fun movie.
Yeah. And it's to the point where if people ever listen to Sutro Sidewatch, we are usually our March theme is Miyazaki. And the first year we or like I guess Ghibli technically now. Like the first year we did Nausicaa and Totoro. And this year we did or wait. No, sorry. It was Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky. And this year we actually did Grave of the Fireflies, which is not a fun movie at all. And Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro, which actually is a very fun movie. But it's something where it went from yeah, we'll probably just do a couple movies of this guy and maybe the studio too. We're probably gonna do every single Miyazaki film for sure. I'm not sure how many other Ghibli movies we're gonna do, but like we're gonna cover all of them to the very end, like easily, because they're just that good. Uh, and I think in terms of animated films, like Miyazaki might be the most consistent over that of any other studio, including Disney. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, very much so. Um, Trying to think, I could do one more thing. I'm just like we're at an hour and a half now. So what I got right now is Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, season 5, which is the final season, as well as Mortal Kombat 11 and Injustice 2, which I think putting those two together, I might just save that for next week for sure.
Yeah. I should be going to bed soon.
Yeah. So I think do you think it'd be okay to do Jurassic World, or should I just stop?
I think
there?
you could do Jurassic World.
Okay.
That should be fine.
So, I've talked really good things about this show previously. I've said, even though the Jurassic World trilogy is hot garbage, and
Well, the first one was fine.
The first one was fine, but it was still like, it wasn't good. I don't think it was just okay. It was fun entertainment, but it wasn't like, yeah. This show somehow is superior to it in every possible way, from characters to dinosaurs to because dinosaurs actually feel like there's more of a purpose with them, especially compared to the last Jurassic World movie. But this ends with like everything I expected it. Like last time I said, like, oh, Kenji, he's the rich kid of the group, and his dad shows up and he's like, I own the company that is doing all the fucked up shit here, which is Manticore. And pretty much he acts cool, and then it turns out he's not good, just as everyone expected it to be, where it's like, rich corporate dad, is he actually nice? No, he's evil and greedy, and he's a rich corporate dad. But it pretty much finishes everything off where there's everything from remote controlled dinosaurs, where literal, like, there's chips in them now, where they try to put chips in them and use little game controllers to just make them do shit. And James, they do it to the mother or like the two T-Rexes that survived from Isla Sorna from Lost World, the one that wasn't killed by the Spinosaurus. They do it to the Spinosaurus. They also do it to a couple of the Lost World Jurassic Park raptors and some other dinosaurs too. And it's straight up like the kids do all this cool stuff of like trying to sabotage the corporation's thing. And the funny thing is, like, the corporation doesn't really have any soldiers. It has like 3 security guys there, really. That's about it. But at one point there's all these CEOs that show up to be wowed by this presentation, or these representatives, and they all die. Like, pretty much the dinosaurs, like, I want to say there's probably like 8 deaths in this season alone for a kids show. Yeah, they all, and when I say death, I mean like they get eaten. They all get eaten, but the show once again does a good job of, they're dead. They won't show the dinosaur eat them, but you're like, oh, he's dead. Like, he is, for a fact. And I'm sure the kids are smart enough to be like, oh, he got eaten. And it happens to so many people. They do an interesting job of like they recreate the Spinosaurus T-Rex fight, and it goes as much as you'd expect it to go, but like having 2 T-Rexes helps them like balance it out, where they're like, we could try to fight back against the Spinosaurus, and the Spinosaurus is like, I just like killing things. I'm a Spinosaurus, just like the Jurassic Park 3. One interesting aspect though was the kids create a watering hole for a lot of the dinosaurs they were able to free, and to the point where, like, watering hole, just like in the jungle, like in the savannah, everyone will drink there, even the lions. Like, no one really cares too much. They're just like, oh, well, we're getting water. Water is the goal. We're not trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
The same thing happens here, where they're able to, because one of them more or less kind of makes friends with the T-Rex, because like he frees them from being like crushed by like trees and other stuff. But like you have the T-Rexes there, the Stegosaurus, some like infant dinosaurs that are herbivores, and some other animals there too, and they're just all at this circle, and it's like, oh, everyone's getting along. And it's really smart the way they pulled off. Like, it felt like I want to say, if I could compare the show's intelligence to anything else for kids, it would probably be the first How to Train Your Dragons movie. The way they do that, where he's like studying everything and trying to figure stuff out. They actually do it pretty smart in this one, and do that to kind of pull it all off. It does end with them finally, like the 2 people that were, how the show starts off where they're in a summer camp or a dinosaur camp for kids before, when everything happens in the first movie. The 2 people that were basically their counselors come back with like one of the characters' brother to rescue them, and they actually all finally make it off the island alive. The adults not so much that were there as the villains, but like all the good ones do make it off, and they do like a cool time jump where it's like, oh yeah, one of you is an investigative reporter now, or like investigative person. Two of them are just kind of like doing, he actually is like a speaker now talking about like their experience there, where he like tells the whole story of it all. Another one actually goes back to the island every now and again to hang out with like an ankylosaurus he more or less helped raise, and he's like one of the researchers is there, so he's able to like go there for the summer and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna hang out with dinosaurs now, guys, it's all cool. Because it's like at that point, I think what happens is the show ends when everything happens in terms of like the dinosaurs coming into the world, where they're just everywhere now.
Mhm.
Like it ends with him seeing one out of his window and he's like, oh shit. But like I said, the show's really good. I don't want to go into like full detail of every single thing, but the characters are well done. They make everything pretty believable to the point where you have a kid basically having to choose between his friends and his father and trying to figure all that out and seeing like, oh my God, my dad's been manipulating me, all this shit. Like it's honestly pretty well done for a kid's show, like I said. Um, but it ended, they knew it had an ending, and I think it was a great show because it knew its lifespan. It set out for a story. It told the entire story, and it did it without ever feeling like there was filler, or that there was any form of like bullshit, I guess. Because it's like they have a mission each time, or they have a long-term mission, maybe some short-term stuff, but they get it done, and that's what they're striving for the entire time. There's no like, oh well, let's just do this while we're waiting for the next thing to happen. So I really appreciated it, and I think, yeah, check it out if you can. If you like dinosaurs, check this show out. If you didn't like Jurassic World, check the show out. Maybe you'll like it instead. I don't know, but yeah, Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, great series. Really enjoyed it. Recommend it for sure. And that is all the time we have for. That's been Sutro Sidetalk, and of course, if you would like to, you can email us at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Leave us any comments, feedback, or questions you want us to read on the show. You can also follow the show on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Sutro Sidetalk. And you can subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on or watching. And if it's Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. If it's Spotify, please rate us. And if it's YouTube, give us a like on each episode besides just subscribing. All those things would help us out a lot. You could also follow James at Invader Jim on Twitter and me at GoGoComzilla as well on Twitter. Next week, I think the two big things, James, I don't know if you'll want to watch it, but Halloween Ends. It's on Peacock. I watched the last one in theaters. This time I don't feel like paying the money, so I'm just going to watch it on Peacock and check it out.
Yeah, I skipped the last one, so I'll probably skip this one too.
Okay. But I think the two big things is that and Hocus Pocus 2. I'll really want to talk about, but also we'll talk about Haunting of Bly Manor. I don't know if you watched that one. And
Yeah, I did.
okay, cool. Oh, perfect. We'll talk about Bly Manor, and then also Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat 11. Maybe some other things as well, depending on how much other horror stuff I can get through before next week. The other shows, nothing new that we haven't said from last week, so just keep an eye out. There's been delays basically in Up to It, Down to It, and Sutro Side Watch. And that is about it. Prepare for 2 spooky episodes as we talk more horror-oriented stuff, and it's going to be fun. Until then, so long.
Thanks for listening.